Hello, welcome to today's weekend forex and commodity market review. In today's episode, we'll be looking at we'll be reviewing the market. We'll be looking at how the market had performed in the previous week, and I'll also be giving some outlook about what to expect in the coming week. We'll probably also be looking at one or two possible trade setups that is actually in my radar for the coming week. And strictly, we'll be using technical analysis to review the market. But before I dive into the outlook for the week and possible trade setup I'm actually looking at for the coming week, I will want us to look at some of the happenings in the market in the previous week. Interestingly, the previous week had a lot of fundamentals in its docket. We saw this various central banks coming out with comments after the release of their interest rates, which most of them largely left the interest rate unchanged. But interestingly, the market responded. It was a volatile week, and the market responded sharply with respect to the different comments from the various central banks. We saw the ECB left rate unchanged. We saw the Federal Reserve also left rate unchanged. We saw the Bank of England also left rate unchanged. And the market responded in a way that's interesting. From a technical standpoint, we also saw a lot of market movements in a lot of price action movements that results to a lot of some breakout, change of structures, and the likes. But before I go into that, let me share with you the agenda for today's presentation. So today, I would be looking at last week's market review. We'll be giving some outlook about what to expect, giving an outlook on what to expect in the coming week and potential setup and looks out in one or two currency pairs and commodities I am actually looking at, and which is actually in my radar at the moment. So straight off, let's dive in. Having said that, giving you a brief idea of what happened transpired last week. We also saw the non-farm payroll also, which came below expectation, and it was negative for the dollar. And we saw a lot of the dollar fell sharply due to the results, and this also could be linked to what is expected to from the comment of Fed as well. So let's dive to the dollar index. I love to look at the market from. Let's look at what happened in the previous week. The previous week saw the dollar started on a bright note, so it started on a bright note. We saw the dollar started on a bright note, and but on Wednesday, post the FOMC rate release and comment from Powell, we saw an interesting technical pattern. We saw a double top formation. Basically, the dollar fell sharply and had what we call an engagement from a technical standpoint, and it really occurred at a resistant level, and it began its downward movements. And immediately after the non-farm payroll that was released on the 3rd of November, which was Friday, 3rd of November, we saw a continuation of the downward trend and a break also in support zone. So intermediate support zone. So we saw a breakout in structure. So technically, what we have seen here is that the dollar index had a breakout from this rectangular zone. So it broke out from this rectangular zone. So where we saw the support and resistance around that, and we saw a break down below. So that's a change in structure, and this gave us a better insight into. So we saw the dollar lost sharply last week and the previous week, and the loss resulted to a break in a range bound rectangular zone, and this shows a breakout in structure to the down side for the dollar. So the implication of this, we can also see the reflection of this in the euro as well, which is actually another major currency. You would see that same for a while, the euro US dollar has been trading within a tight range. It was also trading within a tight range of 1.0637 and 1.0523 support zone, 481 support zones. Then on Friday, 3rd of November, we also saw a break in structure. This is more like a symmetric triangle that was broken as well. So it's an unfolding asymmetric triangle after a downtrend, which ought to be a continuation of the downtrend, but we saw a breakout in this symmetric triangle to the upside. So the dollar index was down, and we saw the effect on the euro, which also broke out in structure. Likewise, we could see such similar situation also in the British pounds as well. So also a breakout in structure after a lot of range-bound movements within this level. Within this symmetric triangle level, we saw a long-term downward sloping trend line, which ought to act as support zone to show a continuation there, but we saw a breakout of it on Thursday and a full breakout in structure on Friday. So that also gives us another implication that the dollar may have a long, it maybe have begun a shorter, sorry, may have begun a downward trajectory, and so we could see more strength in the euro, more strength in the US dollar, in the pounds as well. So let's take a look at gold. Another interesting commodity for us to look at. We saw after a sharp upside movement, we saw the gold has been trading within the $2,000 mark, $2,006 per ounce mark, and 1,981.76 mark. So I haven't seen this. Let's take us also look at the crude oil, which is the Brent crude, because of what's happening in the US gas war and some what implication we did have on crude oil. So we saw the Brent crude as well. It's been trading on the upside, back down a bit after it formed a lower high, and now back to the upward trend line, which it bounces off on Thursday and Friday. So the outlook is this: the previous week we saw, in summary, the previous week was actually negative for the dollar, and we saw a lot of breakout in structure in the dollar. We saw an upside breakout in structure in the euro, an upside breakout in structure in the pounds, likewise in the Australian dollar USD. Interestingly, the British pound JPY has been trading within the range for a while, so it's actually it's been trading within the range. So now that we've seen these, let's take a look at what to expect. My expectation in the coming week is to see a possible upside upside rally in, to say a possible upside continuation, resumption rally in the euro. But before then, I actually expect the euro to retrace or correct a bit, find support probably below the 1.0700 zone before a resumption in the uptrend. So I expect the euro to continue in the upside direction. I expect the euro to begin the upside movement in the coming week. For the British pounds as well, same expectation. And since there's a break in structure, a break in the long-time downward trend line, a break in the symmetric triangle, a break in the long-time downward trend line, a break in the symmetric triangle. So a break in the long-term downward trend line and a break in the symmetric triangle, a breakout above resistance that's acting as support. So this means that there's a change in structure, breakout in structure around the British pound. So the expectation in the coming week is that it will continue the upside movements. So interesting. Another interesting pair to look at is the USD Canadian dollar. The USD Canadian dollar, like we had seen in the previous currency pairs, that the USD Canadian dollar has also continued, also started its downward movement on Wednesday, the 1st of November. So we saw it for 3 consecutive days after it has been on a downtrend. So there's an upward sloping trend line that serves as a point of resistance for this currency pair, and the price is approaching that level. So now that it's actually approaching the level, in the coming week, I see the British pounds JPY touch this level, possible breakout. Remember, the dollar is actually weakening. It has had a change in structure, and we will probably be seeing some level of distribution in the dollar. And this could have a southward movement pattern in the USD Canadian dollar, but the buyers would completely remain bearish, or the bearish would be more ascertained when there's a breakout of this upward sloping trend line. So in summary, given out the outlook, the expectation is the Euro USD to continue on upside, to continue its upside movement, which is started some few days back, since there's a breakout in the structure, symmetric triangle, after a strong downward sloping trend line also has been broken. And the symmetric triangle also has been breached. Now it's expected that the upside movement should continue. British pounds, US dollar also should likewise in the same movement. We've seen break above resistance levels, since symmetric triangle being breached, long-term downward trend line being breached. USD Canadian dollar also to continue a downtrend, but we need the upward sloping trend line to be broken to ascertain a downward movement. So For gold, the expectation is it should likely continue in the range which it is trading at the moment, because there's some bit of resistance around the 20,009 level. So it's likely to continue in the range that it is at the moment. So for gold, it's continuing the range. The for the Brent crude, the upward sloping trend line could serve as a support. So there's a need to look out for how the market performed on Monday. So we've done a review of the market in the previous week. We've looked at the possible outlook of what to expect in the coming week. So let's go back to the last part of our Meet the Expert session for today, and it's to look at how I make my trade plans, how I look at the market, how I look at the market and possible setups. I'm actually my possible setup for the coming week. Interestingly, I marked some pairs for my setup in the coming week. Let me run you through one or two of them. Then I'll tell you what I'm looking at, what price I'm looking at to enter, and how I intend to trade them in the coming week. So let me clear off all of this and give you a clear picture on how I start to analyze the market. So the first thing I do is to look at the market from a broader perspective and a long-term view. So I want to look at how the market is behaving from the long-term perspective, from the monthly time frame to the weekly time frame. And we would notice that the market presently, in the previous month of October, we saw some form of indecision. But the interesting thing about the indecision is that we call it a doji. The interesting thing about this is more like a spinning top or spinning bottom. The interesting thing about it is that it formed at a critical support level. So first thing I mark is to look at how the market is behaving at key support level, significant support level on a higher time frame. On a higher time frame, so we've seen that the British pound, which is the pair I'm going to be looking at this week for my trading activity, has been trading within. I actually found support around key support level of 1.2332. So that's the first thing. I note that, and I note the support level. So it gives me clarity of how the market may likely behave around this zone. So I love to trade within the zone. I trade within the zone. It's a good. So after which I go back to the weekly time frame. You would notice that from the week after having identified the support zone of 1.2030, you will notice for like 4 consecutive 1, 2, 3, 4, the market 5, the market has been showing a lot of indecision within a range of 1.2033 and the zone of 1.23 2325 2050. So we are seeing the market traded a lot around this range, a lot of indecisions within this range. So on a weekly time frame. So, but like I said, the interesting thing about it is that the previous week saw a breakout in structure. So one, we saw a full bullish candle, an engulf candle, which engulfed the previous 5 weeks. That's a signal of a bullish movement. Now, it occurred after having touched a key support, which we have identified on the monthly time frame. Also, you will also see this at the bottom here, the RSI SMA also crossed above the RSI crossed above the SMA, the moving average. So this has given me an indication that this pair would likely begin an upward movement in the week to come. So there's a more likely conviction that we may see a continuous uptrend in British pounds in the coming week. So now the other effects are now scaled down to, let me now scale down to the daily time frame. So we now look at our setup. So what do I look at on the daily time frame? I want to look at how the market is behaving or behave within some key patterns. So the first thing I drew was to draw a trend line, and we will notice that the trend line that was drawn was breached on Thursday. Now, on a shorter time frame, when you have this kind of movement, we have what we call a symmetric triangle. We saw a symmetric triangle formed in British pounds. We saw a symmetric triangle formed on British pounds. So actually touch this. Okay, it was this. So, and this symmetric triangle also was breached on Friday. So we had on Thursday a breakout in the long-term downward sloping trend line, a breakout in the upward sloping in the symmetric triangle, breaking series of resistance levels. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do next is that I'll scale down in order to find my trade setup in the coming weeks. So I want to scale down to 4 hours, which is where my setup entry signal comes from, which is where my entry signal comes from. So it's better to look at where to take our trade. So to take our trade, we've gotten our resistance, intermediate resistance zone of 1.332. and also a zone of 1 point, which is a key level of 1.3308. So what do I expect to do is to say, when the market retraces to possibly 1 point around the resistance, which is expected to act as support, then I fake my trade for the week in the pair. So my setup is this. We've noticed a possible change in bias because there was a break in series of market structure, found support, and so this signals that a possible change in trend in the British pound. So, like I said, I'm looking at entry long in the coming week after price retraced to 1.2330 mark, where it's expected to serve as support, then where the resistance is supposed to become support, then we take our buy trade. The second trade in my radar, the second pair I'm looking at for the week is the Euro USD. So the USD, like I'd analyzed the British pounds as well, from the monthly time frame to the weekly time frame to the daily time frame. So let's run through the process as well, so that we have a good grasp and understanding of how I view and look at the markets. So, and what I am expecting in the coming week. So, like we saw also in let's go to the monthly so that we have a sort of view of it. So you would also notice that in the Euro US dollar, the month of October showed an interesting month. It was actually also an interesting month. What happened? After August, September saw a bearish movement, the sell side were in control, drove the price down. It found support. This pair found support, key significant for support levels, because it's important we understand these are key significant support levels. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the pair found support 4 times at about the same level, and that signals that's 1.0464. So, and in the month of October, we saw the same kind of pattern we saw in British pounds, which is an indecision between the market players, and this is more like a doji. So this signals to us that there is a possible hand in the downward movement because there's a resistance for the price to go further down, likely. So we identified the support. Now, let's go down to the weekly time frame. So we also noticed that from the weekly time frame, for like some weeks, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, the 4 weeks, the pair was also finding support within the support range. So that's also another good validation that the pair may likely have found support at this level. So on last week's trading activity validates our change in bias when there was a breakout in structure. So we saw a full bullish candle and our RSI close above our MA. So which means that we have a change in bias, which means that we are seeing a possible upside movement may have started in this currency pair. So what do? We now scale down to a daily time frame. Draw out my trend line. I drew out my trend line. Let me pick a ray so that you have a good. I drew out my trend line. Saw that after it had broken, it serves as support, dynamic support, and horizontal support, which is an historical support, a breakout in structure. So this actually also helped to validate that we may have seen a resumption in the uptrend for this currency pair. You will notice I had to draw this upward sloping trend line to see if price actually breached this, to say this is going to be a possible resumption and continuation of the downtrend, but there's a resistance for price to go below this intermediate upward sloping trend line, which is a demand trend line. So on Thursday, we saw a bullish move, and on Friday, we saw a breakout in structure. So and structure is key. Like I said, I love to trade within the zone. We saw a breakout in structure. This signals a possible upside movement in the zero. So what am I looking at? Like I did in the British pounds, I scaled down to the 4 hours time frame and wait for a possible change, a possible correction, a correction in this pair. So what am I looking at is a possible correction in euro, then the beginning of an uptrend. So these are my clear-cut trade sector for the week. For a recap, I looked at the market in previous week, how the central bank decisions, comments, and the non-farm payroll affected the market's price action, price movement in the previous week. And we also concluded that from what the market actually displayed, it was actually a negative week for the dollar, and there was a breakout in the structure of the dollar. So we're saying that our conclusion is there's a likely resumption of a distribution phase in the dollar, which is that the dollar is expected to go south. So to now look at it, we want to now look at on individual pairs. We said the Euro USD also has a breaking structure to the upside. The British pound also has a breaking structure to the upside. The Canadian dollar is actually approaching an important upward sloping trend line, and we expect a break below the structure. They will now confirm our short bias in this pair. We said gold is trading within a range, so we may likely see in the near time, gold will probably be trading within 2000 and 1981 mark. Crude oil also, we said it has been traded a long-term uptrend, but now is actually more like in the consolidation zone, but currently is finding support at an upward sloping trend line. So we also said that in the coming week, we expect a bullish movement in the Euro USD, British Pounds USD, Australian Dollar USD, a range-bound movement in gold, a range in crude oil, downward movement in the dollar in overall. And I also gave my trade setup about the two pairs that is actually in my radar for the week, and that my plans is to enter long for British Pounds USD at 1.322, and the Euro USD also at about 1.0700. But as the market unfolds, I will be looking at the market in real time in line with my bias and to see if it is holds and how to place my trade setup. But if my bias changes as well, if the market condition or the market movement changes, my bias also changes. So we look at what the market will do in the coming week. Thank you. Thank you. I've been able to give you an up-to-date of what to expect in the coming week. Okay, but before I take a close and open the floor for questions, let me just take you through this X&P index, the XRP 500. And one of the things you must understand about the US market, stock market, you must understand the relationship between the US stock market, the dollar, and the currency forex market, especially the dollar. Now, there is mostly an inverse relationship between the equity market and the dollar. Now, when investors sees that when the investor sees that there is minimum concern for risk, they tends to invest in the equity markets and sell off in the dollar, because the dollar is seen or considered at the moment to be seen as a safe haven currency, safe haven assets. So when investors notice that the risk level in the market is reducing, they tend to invest more on the equity side and sell the dollar. So, and that's what we're seeing for the previous week. We've seen that there's some considerable level of accumulation, considerable level of buying interest in the equity space, and this shows that we may likely see the X&P index trending up, and if that is trending up, inverse relationship to the dollar, and that also gives us another view, another understanding of what I try to validate our outlook, our expectations for the dollar and for the currency pairs we're looking at. So, so far so good. Thank you. I've been able to do this. Let me now open the floor up to anyone to ask questions. So before I round up in the next 10-20 minutes. Any question, just let me know, then I'll round up. Then we'll look at the market in real time. By tomorrow, I'll send you some email. I'll also send you some link on how to join my channel, so you will get a real-time trade alert on my trade setup, my entry price, what pair I'm going to trade at what time, the entry price, the take profit, and what and more. Seems no more question. There seems no question. Any question? Okay, so okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Alaji Mohammed.
Yes, I joined very late. My network here is very bad, and though I was able to join in the last 5 or 6 minutes, and kindly send me the recorded distance.
Surely you will get the recorded video of what I've looked at in the last few minutes. Okay, so and I think it will be instructive. So in summary, what I've done today is to look at the markets in the previous week, discuss one or two happenings that have happened in the market in the previous week, and how it have influenced the price action in the week. And we saw a little breakout in structure, a lot of breakout in market structure across different assets in the week, and that gives us shaped our bias and what to expect in the coming week. And I also ran through one or two currency pairs that I'm actually looking at in the coming week for my trades. So I also took the time to go through the process which I take, how I look at the market, how I identify my levels, what patterns I look at what time frame, what structure breakout I am looking at, and how I set my entry. So I'll be doing real-time trade alerts as the market unfolds from tomorrow, Monday. So I think it's a nice time trying to look at the market. So I'll send a video to everyone so that you can look. So on a weekend basis, we'll be reviewing the market as it is. We'll be discussing the market, looking at what market has done, what the market is expected to do from a technical analysis perspective, and look at what discuss one or two assets and how to trade them for the week.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the time. So thank you very much. Have a nice week ahead.